The first video that I put out in 2021 was titled Games I Want You to Play, and the idea of it was to take the normal concept of a YouTube gaming list video and twist it into something that better reflects this channel's focus on more niche titles. So instead of ranking games on pure quality, it was more a combination metric of quality and popularity. The games were all excellent, but the more niche a game is, the more I want to see new people playing it. The more I want you to play it, hence the title. So I sat down to write a list of 10 games for that video and wrote about 35, which is now at 39 because I remembered a couple and played a couple more. So now I get to make a part 2, and as I said in the previous video, every game in this list fits into one of 3 categories: genuinely excellent games, popular or not, great games with less mainstream popularity, and hidden gems that deserve more attention. So, let's continue. Deck building is a brilliant mechanic. Deck builders create a limited decision space which makes games fast and snappy. The constant influx of new cards and abilities is satisfying and rewarding, and the built-in randomness of shuffling a deck results in varied games and exciting luck-of-the-draw moments. And one of my favourite deck builders is White Wizard Games' quick, competitive 1 vs 1 space fleet constructor, Star Realms. Both players start Star Realms with the same 10 weak cards that on your turn provide you with a little bit of damage to deal and a small amount of money. The money you gain on a turn is used to pick up new, more exciting cards from the trade row, and the game turns into a non-stop battle as you balance your need for trade, damage and defense while building powerful synergies to get the edge over your opponent. Turns in Star Realms often boil down to a single decision of which card to buy, and so the game progresses at a rapid pace. But that single decision holds a lot of strategic weight because any card you pick up is going to be cycling through your deck for the rest of the game. The design of the 4 factions holds great environmental storytelling with the aggressive blobs focused on pure damage, the Empire overwhelming you with a numbers advantage, the Machine Cult scrapping and recycling their units to improve efficiency, and the Trade Federation who assert their dominance on the battlefield with an ability to regenerate authority. It's a game with top-notch art, wonderful theming, and brilliantly strategic but still fast gameplay. Star Realms is definitely worth checking out in both video game and original card game form. Next up, Prismata. Prismata is essentially the anti-Star Realms. In some ways it is a very similar game. It's a competitive 1 vs 1 strategy game about purchasing units turn by turn and building a fighting force to crush your opponent, but while Star Realms excels with its use of randomness, Prismata is entirely deterministic. Rather than a deck builder, Prismata is an engine builder. Every card or unit that you buy becomes part of an engine that activates every turn. These units can create currency, attack, shields, or resources. Attack and shields are fairly self-explanatory, and currency and resources are required for building extra units. The pool of units is randomized every game to make you think about your strategy, but in each game the available units are identical for both players, and so you can plan your strategy knowing the options of the other player. Do you invest in cheap red energy and mass smaller attackers, or aim for an expensive blue unit? Do you spend your early turns amassing drones, or quickly invest in resource generators to make your opponent react to an early attack? The game is inspired by StarCraft and reflects that sort of real-time strategy decision-making, balancing attacking, defense, economy, and finding the right strategy given the available units. The determinism is incredibly interesting and creates a very strategic game, although it does have 2 major downsides. Firstly, if you are bad at the game, it will feel punishing because there is no luck to hide behind. And secondly, early advantages will frequently snowball into victory for much the same reason. But having said that, Prismata is a really clever game with a huge amount of depth and a brilliant puzzle to figure out. It's definitely not going to be a game for everyone because it is very heavy deterministic strategy, but some of you will love it. Oh, and it's free, which I've just added in because that's quite important. At number 8 on this video, Divinity Original Sin II. This is another game that goes slightly against the purpose of this list, in that everyone who is a huge fan of this genre of epic turn-based fantasy RPGs will absolutely already know that this game exists, but again, it is just an achievement of such high quality that I have to mention it anyway. I am not normally one for stupidly long RPGs, which Divinity Original Sin 2 definitely is, clocking in at around 90 hours long. But less than a week after I finished this game, I downloaded a mod for it and played it again. The world of this game is just incredible. The level of detail in the assets is wonderful. The locations are rich and vibrant and filled with things to explore and interact with. And the very late and very brave decision to fully voice act a game with this much dialogue brings everything to life, even if you will end up hearing a few lines over and over again in marketplaces and town squares.
Smells worse over here than a dozen rotten eggs dropped in a vat of vinegar.
The characters are superb, with pre-written backstories and personal quests that become genuinely important to you as you bond with your heroes over dozens of hours of play. Missions can often be completed in a variety of ways, and finding ways to combine mechanics to solve problems is consistently rewarding. The upgrades and abilities have great depth and variety, allowing for excellent tactical combat, even despite the controversial armor mechanic that stands as one of the game's only negatives. From the first moment to the last, Divinity Original Sin II is brilliantly immersive with only minor hiccups along the way as you embark on a truly epic, grand-scale adventure. And to top it all off, you can play the game in a co-op mode where both players have so much independence, and quality co-op campaigns like this don't come along nearly frequently enough. Next up, we have a massive change of scale from the epic adventure of Divinity Original Sin II to something much smaller and more minimal. Wilmot's warehouse is a curious little oddity. In its mechanics, it's a remarkably simple game. You, Wilmot, are in a warehouse. Square tiles of stock arrive in the warehouse for storage, and when those items are requested, you need to carry them over to the collections window. And that's it. But very quickly there will be far more items than you can individually keep track of. So you need to come up with a plan, usually by grouping things together. This is where all the dots are stored. Easy. This is the stars over here, next to the apples, which could expand to fruit if other products arrive. Then this is the fish heads and the shark fins over by the kidneys. That's a lot of kidneys. And this is a single traffic cone and a bunch of compasses, so I guess this is a travel section? And as you get more and more items, it slowly expands into this entertaining, whimsical, logistical management memory game. That's also a word game with no words. You're defining these sometimes quite abstract tiles and then grouping them together by similar meanings, and it's interesting to see where your brain goes. This is where you find the enjoyment in Wilmot's warehouse, trying to figure out where to keep everything so that you will be able to find it again. And it is just a lot of fun to battle against this growing disorder and the incompetence of your past self. But most of all, it is just something that is very, very different. You will not have played a game like Wilmot's Warehouse before. And on top of all of that, it also has a superb soundtrack. Check it out. On the surface, Baba Is You is a soccer band style block pushing puzzle game. Push blocks out of the way, open doors and reach a flag to win the level. But what makes Baba Is You so interesting is that every single rule in a level is a physical part of that level. To be able to push a block, there needs to be a rule stating block is push. In order for a wall to stop you moving, there needs to be a rule saying wall is stop. But if you walk up to that rule and physically break it apart, then walls can't stop you anymore. This is simply a genius idea. It's a game that you play and immediately wonder how nobody else had made it before. Because this combination of classic soccer band block pushing and the ability to solve problems by redefining the world around you clicks perfectly within the game's first few levels. The thinking that Baba Is You encourages is quite unlike anything else. Maybe you don't have to open a door if you can just take control of something on the other side. When you realise that you've been trying to deal with how to get across this water, when you can just change the end goal of the level instead. The game is just filled with brilliant aha moments from start to finish, with hardly a step wrong in any of its varied creative puzzles that continuously offer new ways to explore the game's mechanics. I am a huge fan of soccer band puzzle games, and I love when one comes along that offers something a little bit different to the genre. And I don't think there are any soccer band games that are as different as Baba Is You. If you're not a fan of soccer band or puzzle games, then this probably still won't be up your alley, but if you are, then this game should definitely be near the top of your to-play list. Next up is Terraria. Terraria is a game that I left off the first list because of its immense popularity, but ultimately it is just too good a game not to recommend. Starting out by chopping down a few trees, you embark on an adventure that over the course of 50 plus hours will see you fight increasingly dangerous monsters, mine down to explore vast biomes, hunt for valuable items and resources to craft powerful and exciting weapons, make great discoveries, navigate through hell, fight powerful bosses building up towards scales that you can barely comprehend, and even go fishing. I probably should have put that one in earlier. Over 9 years, Terraria grew and grew with continuous updates to the game, and the grand size of the adventure continued to grow with it. I wouldn't normally praise loads of stuff as being a reason to play a game, but when the game's mechanics are this solid and the world is this exciting to explore, then the vast depth of content just keeps the good times rolling longer. Whether you're rushing forward from boss to boss, achievement hunting, experimenting with new ideas, creatively building, or just fishing again, there is always something to enjoy in Terraria. It is a truly epic game, one of the best games ever released on Steam if you go by user reviews, and simply a legendary indie title. And a similar bonus to Divinity Original Sin II, it has one of the best long-term co-op campaigns that you can find in video gaming. Play it. Ape Out is so much fun. It's a top-down 2D action game where you play as a powerful, vibrant gorilla who's been caged up in a laboratory and just wants freedom. The gameplay is about finding your way from the doors of the cage to an exit and causing as much havoc as you want in the process. As you try to escape, you'll have to deal with guards, usually via a combination of sneaking around them unseen and charging at them headfirst to launch them into a wall. It's a weighty, cathartic action as you send these enemies flying into walls, barrels, or even other guards and watch them just explode on impact. It's graphic and violent, but because of the abstract, minimalist visuals, it never feels gory. The guards can be tricky, and you will end up dying, a lot, but it's always quick to get straight back into the action. It's satisfying, fast-flowing gameplay, but what really makes Ape Out special is the music. It has the most incredible dynamic soundtrack that I have ever heard. The game contains literally thousands of individual drum sounds and chains them together beautifully based on your actions in the game. With every enemy you kill, there's the crash of a cymbal. As more enemies appear on screen, the drum track increases in intensity, and it gets louder the more kills you make. But if time passes without more kills, then it settles back down again. However you're playing, the soundtrack adapts to fit the mood perfectly, and it is just superb feedback for the player. Ape Out is a really solid game, about 5 hours long with a wonderful theme, great gameplay and an exceptional soundtrack, and one of the best final levels I think I've ever seen. I also recommend checking out my video on Ape Out because I think it's really good, even though I do get the lead developer's name wrong within about 20 seconds. Anyway. Finally into the top 3 of this video, and at number 3, Starseed Pilgrim. There's actually not a lot that I can really say about this game. The first rule of Starseed Pilgrim is basically, don't talk about Starseed Pilgrim. You can recommend the game, but you shouldn't give anything away, not because of any twists or shock moments, but simply because the beauty of Starseed Pilgrim is the exploration and discovery of this gorgeous, minimalist, symphonic garden. Starseed Pilgrim has some platforming mechanics, you can move around and jump, but other than that I won't really say how it plays. It's an abstract puzzle where the puzzle is the game itself. In many ways, Starseed Pilgrim is a visually beautiful test of your video gaming literacy. Can you understand interactions just by seeing them? Can you make use of them to achieve goals that you also need to figure out yourself? In this sense, Starseed Pilgrim is completely opaque, but that's also what makes the game so interesting. There's a huge amount of quality and polish to the game. The soundscape is phenomenal, the minimalist visuals are wonderful and clean, and the game feel is excellent, which really helps in keeping you in this white void of a world even when you feel completely lost. And there is a good chance that you will. I remember the first hour that I played Starseed Pilgrim, I made literally zero progress because I hadn't actually figured out what progress was. If you think you have an interest in video games as an abstract and diverse medium, I think Starseed Pilgrim is worth looking at. But a better and more specific question is this. If you are looking at what's on the screen right now and wondering why, then I think you should play this game. Because if it really clicks with you, it will be one of your favourite video game experiences. As many of you may know if you followed this channel for a while, I am a huge fan of Eco. A huge fan. Fumito Ueda's debut work as a game designer is a legendary title, and one that's significance and impact on the video gaming world was far, far greater than its commercial success. In the past, it's been described as the most influential video game you never played, but I prefer to see it as your favourite game designer's favourite game. Eco is a minimalist puzzle platformer about a young boy called Eco trying to escape a haunting, empty castle, and along the way save a young girl he meets called Yorda. Eco's gameplay involves shimmying along ledges, pushing boxes around, pulling levers and swinging on chains to navigate the 3D space of the castle, and then figuring out ways to create a path for Yorda who lacks Eco's physical talents. But that's also not really what the game is about. The reason Eco has become such a legendary game and a cult classic is for the way it tells a story. Despite minimal dialogue and only a small number of cutscenes, Eco creates a powerful and emotional connection between its two main characters through clever use of mechanics and environments. Eco and Yorda's complementing abilities highlight their importance to one another. The immersive realism of the interconnected monolithic castle and the unsettling emptiness of the world around you constantly work to bring Eco and Yorda together with every moment that you play. The quality of this subtle passive storytelling is such that Eco has been cited as a direct inspiration for a huge number of game designers over the years, and if you've played Eco, you can feel elements of it everywhere. One thing I did say about this list is that the games on it should be easy to play, and it is a little difficult to play Eco. The best approach is probably PlayStation Now if you don't own an older Sony console, and the 2011 HD remaster is definitely the way to go if you do. Luckily with Eco, because it is a slower paced game, the sort of latency and delay you get while playing over PlayStation Now isn't noticeable, and so that works in a way that it doesn't for more action focused titles. But despite this, I still had to mention it because this iconic PlayStation 2 classic still doesn't get the love I feel it deserves. And finally for this list is a game that my appreciation of has been growing like a seed planted in my mind ever since I first completed it. Heaven's Vault. Heaven's Vault is an open-world archaeological detective story. It's a 15 to 20 hour work of interactive fiction that plays somewhat like a point-and-click adventure, but by far the best point-and-click adventure I have ever played. In place of a linear sequence of events, Heaven's Vault has the most incredible non-linear player-driven narrative filled with the freedom to make your own decisions and guide your own story. And instead of the awkward screen-searching item-mixing puzzles that are a classic of the point-and-click genre, Heaven's Vault puzzles have you translating and genuinely learning a fictional hieroglyphic language. Heaven's Vault tells a story of Alia El-Azra, an archaeologist from the University on Iox who's been tasked with investigating the disappearance of roboticist Yaniki Renba, with the help or oversight from a robotic companion called Six. It is a beautiful game in so many ways. The environments you find are wonderfully created and incredible to explore. The soundtrack by Lawrence Chapman moves between uplifting and hauntingly beautiful and matches the tone of the story perfectly. And the writing itself, of which there is a lot, is exceptional. It's a game that gives you genuine freedom to explore. Where to go, what to do, and what to say are all up to the player, with decisions that have a real effect on the game world. The translation mechanic is brilliant. With the help of some gamified aspects to create a reasonable level of challenge, you will actually start to learn this language over the course of your 15 to 20 hour playthrough, associating symbols with their themes and figuring out the words they create through their combinations. Either of these halves, the non-linear story and the fictional hieroglyphic language, would be enough on their own to make the game worth playing. Without the language, Heaven's Vault is still a remarkable feat of interactive fiction, and without a game behind it, the language would still be an engaging toy. But the two combine together so naturally and thematically, and with it Inkle have created something genuinely special. I said earlier it's the best point-and-click adventure I've ever played, but actually I think I can say more. Heaven's Vault is simply the best story I've ever experienced in a video game, and I highly recommend checking it out. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video or found a suggestion in here that you'd really like to play. I highly recommend all the titles in this video, though obviously with the caveat that you know your own preferences, so if you despise something like soccer band games, probably don't play Baba Is You. There were a lot of good game recommendations in the comments of the other videos, some of which I went and played, like Yooka-Laylee in the Impossible Lair and Monolith, which I am terrible at, and others that I've added to a list to definitely look at in the future, like Lovely Planet and Manifold Garden, which I refuse to play until I've replaced the broken parts on my computer, because I feel it would be a waste to play something this beautiful on a laptop. If you have any favourite games that you think are severely underrated or underappreciated, please let me know about them in the comments. Thank you again for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.